Alright. I figured that instead of writing stuff up, I would just watch your game and commentate it myself while going through, so you can have a look at stuff. Maybe someone else will find this useful as well. Excuse the beer, been a long day. So let's just wait for this crap to load up. In fact, let's speed this up. Can we speed this up? Lovely, there we go. Right. I'll change my camera view, player perspective, Invoker. Fairly standard starting items for Cross Invoker in the mid lane. I'm not entirely sure what on earth. Level 0, Arcane Aura, interesting.
30 seconds to battle.
In fact, I'll change that to a free camera. Yeah, that's just weird. Normal starting items, that's fine. Not particularly worried about that. I'll be interested to see how well you cope with the Bane Elemental mid, because Bane's pretty nasty mid. I might speed this up
The battle begins.
for the time being. Alright. Block went a little bit wonky there. Let's slow you down again. Alright, you're not already. It doesn't look like you're moving around enough in the lane. You're sort of standing. That's better. I mean, you're just standing still, which is never a good idea.
If I can't have you, no one will.
It's all the same to me.
Right. Already, you really you could quite happily be trading a couple of hits with the Bane, because you've got the regen and he doesn't. If you haven't, I don't think you even checked what the Bane's items were, which really you should have done. But you out-regen the Bane. Last hit a little better. You out-regen the Bane quite massively, so you should be able to take that. Yeah. Like, you're missing a bunch of last hits here. That's just practice. But like, you've got Cold Snap, Bane doesn't. Just trade last hits with trade attacks with him, and then that's one of the main strengths of Invoker. I'm not entirely sure why your Quas orbs aren't showing up, but never mind. It's probably just a quirk with the spectator.
Short-sighted of you.
I tend to prefer going 2 levels of Quas over over the first level of Wex, because you're not likely to want to use that, and that gives you really quite a lot of regen instead of 1 Quas, 1 Wex. I know that you can use Tornado to get you out of a potential bind, but I prefer 2 levels of Quas over 1 Quas, 1 Wex. It also, 2 levels of Quas does a lot of things for you. For instance, it actually straight up stops Dazzle from casting if it procs every time. Right, yeah, okay, I was good about to say you missed, but yeah, you didn't follow that through. You should cast your Cold Snap when you do your have your first attack just in the air, cast your Cold Snap, and then keep chasing to follow it up. There you sort of cast your Cold Snap, wasted the mana. It did him 30 damage as opposed to a good couple of hundred that it could have done. Tornado this early on, complete waste of mana. No reason to use that. It did nothing. I mean, what's Tornado damage right now? 90? You get so much more than that just out of Cold Snap. You're also spending mana on Invoke that you don't really want to be spending, and you've neglected levels of Quas, especially against a Bane. I'm not sure that's a good idea, because the Bane will be harassing you a fair amount if he's any good. he should really just be going Soul Ring, Brain Sap. So you will be taking a lot of damage, so you really want the regen to be coming through here. Which is, again, a couple of levels of Quas over the single. But I guess the argument can go that you want to be able to EMP the Bane, because Bane has a high mana cost, high cooldown sort of spells. But you're not really, you're never going to get a good EMP off against him before you have level, if you... So yeah, that's... that was a little too aggressive when you really that Bane should have been much lower already. So if you had an extra level of Cold Snap early, you'd been able to harass him a little bit better, you'd have been able to dominate your lane a little bit more. I mean, that Bane, what is he? He's on 13-2, you're on 15-7, so you're, it's not too bad, but really you should have been able to dominate the lane a little better. Simply just by abusing Cold Snap earlier on. There's nothing wrong with getting a couple of levels of Quas and then going for more in Wex later on. I tend to go 2 Quas and then pump Wex, depending on the lane. But the second level of Quas and Cold Snap really does interrupt quite a few heroes' casting animations, especially if it procs all the time. I found that I was playing a side lane Invoker with the Juggernaut, and the Dazzle just couldn't Shallow Grave anyone whilst the Cold Snap was going on him, which was hilarious. So yeah, there you have to animation cancel. In fact, I'll just go back a little bit. Alright, wait a second. What you really want to be doing is you've got your Cold Snap, and then you launch you Cold Snap your enemy, launch your first attack, animation cancel, and keep chasing through. So it should come up in a second, that attempt. Also, you've got your gold. Why aren't you buying your phase boots just straight away? You've got your gold, get your phase boots, because as soon as you get your phase boots, you hit so much harder, and you can chase so much better, especially with the Cold Snap. So you just here, okay, and you just stand still there. That's not good. You need to be able to chase it through. You have high levels of Wex, so you have high levels of Wex and you're on full life. Or at least you were. Why are you sitting in the lane without maxed out Wex orbs, which you really should be doing, so that you just have that little bit more of an advantage? Again, phase boots have been ready for about 30 or 40 seconds. They should already be on their way to you. Because that way you can just Cold Snap, phase, and attack and animation cancel through the Bane. I mean, now it's not fun. The Bane is going to end up he can just sort of kill you now if he plays it well. But really, you should be a level or 2 ahead of him just through the Cold Snap abuse. This Bane, while he's pretty decent, he wouldn't be able to deal with that, especially if you had your phase boots earlier on. What's your CS at? It's not you're drawing even with the Bane. When I know Bane has got absurd base damage, but you should be able to bully him back out of lane a little bit better. I like that. It's a nice use of the EMP and Tornado. That's the sort of thing you should be doing against Bane. But earlier on, you could well have been doing more to win your lane. And I'm sounding like a broken record, so I'm going to stop saying that sort of thing. So yeah, only now have you got that. This is a little dull, so I'm going to speed this up. Let's just see what's going on. Let's put it on player perspective. Alright. Doesn't look like... Oh no, it does give... chat, so where's the... You should really be calling the missing on that Bane, especially because he's level 6. You guys don't have any wards,
Denied.
so none of you... Like, you don't know where the Bane's gone, you don't know whatever, so he could well have just gone and killed a lane. I'll be constantly telling you to improve your last hitting, but that's just practice. Nice. But that was almost very, very, very bad. Alright, so what are you doing now? You are... you still don't have your face boost. You've had it in the chicken for God knows how long, and it's just doing nothing. That's just a little bit sloppy. I quite like the Void earlier on. I tend to just
Incubatory.
go straight for my drum. I don't find that I have that many mana issues. But if you're spamming spells as much as you have been, then I guess you would do. And again, that was a little over ego. You never check the Bane's hit points or mana. And you are very lucky to get away with that. And I could be wrong, and that might just be a limitation of the engine. It's not telling me what you're selecting. In which case, completely disregard that. Alright. Yeah, I do tend to go straight for a drum. Yeah. That was a little ambitious of the Bane, and I'm now keen to see what you do with this. You start getting your drum, and then bugger off home. Not sure if you need to do that. You can sit at your tower, get your chicken to bring you a potion, a health potion, quass up, and you know that the Bane has just burnt his ulti, you know he's just burnt his brain sap, and you know that you've just hit him with a EMP. So there's no way that he's going to be able to do anything to you other than auto-attack you, which with 3 levels in Quas you really don't care about. So you probably should have just stayed at the tower there and carried on getting experience points and that sort of thing. You guys really need some wards, but it's not necessarily your job, but if no one else is doing it, someone probably should. You are quite lucky that the Juggernaut didn't just ulti you there. That was a little bit unsubtle. But again, that's just sort of how it goes. I guess you could have ghost walked away from it, but you're just sort of running around, not doing very much.
Going into hiding.
Sort of like you're wasting a fair bit of time here. If you've gone for a gank with an Invoker needs levels like hard carries need farm. So if you've gone for a gank with an Invoker and it's kind of not worked, yeah, take a tower or go somewhere else and go back and get levels and farm.
Bottom tower is under attack.
I quite like the taking of the tower. That's always a good thing to do. But now you seem to be running away again, and like you've just left mid alone for a couple of minutes and got very little out of it, which means that let's have a look at this. Oh, not directed. This Bane. that was pretty stupid by the Bane. but equally, it was slightly ambitious to expect that you could have killed him there. But yeah, I like the cold snap preemptively, but there's not much else you're going to do. But really, yeah, you've sort of left mid alone for a while. Your drum is a little bit late, although that is because you got the void stone. What's your farm like? That's not too bad. It could be improved, but it's not too bad. This Bane is just auto-attacking, which is yeah, that's not so good. Why do you go back to do that? You have Quas. You were full mana. You've got a chicken. You've got a flying courier. Use the flying courier to bring you everything that you need. That's twice that you've done that now, and that's just going to be losing you experience, which is, like I said, Invoker needs experience like hard carries need farm. You need levels in order to be able to affect the game. Like, farm is really good, but levels is ultimately what you really, really need. That was interesting. They probably could have just straight up killed you there. Oh no, Void didn't have his Chronosphere, that's fine. So yeah, I get you're running around doing stuff, but it doesn't feel like there's any direction to it. It doesn't feel like you know why you're running around. Again, not sure why you cold snap the Razor. You're choosing slightly the wrong target. The Void jumped in. You knew that the Void couldn't escape, and your anti-mage was right next to him. The Razor was near the tower, so you cold snap the Razor, and he takes 30 damage. Who cares? Why are you invoking? Where was that? That was mid to kill a range creep. It doesn't really seem like it was worth much. I guess you're just annoying the Tide Hunter, but it does 75 damage. Like, really, it's not worth it. I do like that you've got an extra point in. I got your point in Exhort now, so that you have access to Deafening Blast, especially against the team with, you know, Juggernaut and Banes. You have an extra disable, and you have the anti-attack effect, which is good. But because you've been running around so much, you're only level 11. And if you had either succeeded in the ganks, which again, not necessarily your fault, but if you'd succeeded in the ganks or bailed out on them earlier, why are you casting Deathling Blast? If you'd either succeeded in the ganks or... But you just like casting things, which is fair enough, it's fun, but there was no reason to do that whatsoever. You're just wasting mana. Not necessarily a lot of mana, but you're just wasting mana. There was no point for that. Like, something I often think is everything you do in a game of Dota should have a reason behind it, and it feels like there's a lot of running around for very little reason. I understand that you kind of feel like you want to defend against this top push, but really, what are they going to do with those heroes that are, like, they're not reliably going to push? And this anti-mage is suicidal, which is also nice. Like, they're not necessarily going to be able to push, and you can probably make it up there in time to escape it. Also, where the hell's your TP scroll? I've not seen you have a TP scroll all game. TP scrolls win matches. And that was just kind of stupid. Like, you could very easily have died there if the Bane had slightly more balls. If he just brain sapped you and fiend script you, you were dead. There was nothing that was going to interrupt him, and then the Razor could have come. Excuse me. So, again, you don't have any TP scrolls. You seem to be running around a little bit too much, not focusing on what you want to be doing. So it feels like there isn't enough focus to what your game plan is. And as a consequence, you're kind of behind on farm and kind of behind on levels as to where you could or should be. And then, kind of the one time when you really should have been top defending against the push, you were mid-farming because you didn't have any mana, because you were spamming spells and other things, and you don't have a TP scroll. because you're not using your chicken enough. So use the chicken more, don't spam stuff when there's no need to, and then you can contribute much more when it's necessary, when it actually has an effect in the game. I also, I'm not sure whether it's a right or wrong thing, it's a judgment call, but I quite often don't get the third level of exhort, because you're probably not likely to do very much. Third level of... That's very loud. The third level of invoke, because you're not really spamming that many spells. You're still, at this point in the game, you're kind of basically using EMP, Tornado, and Cold Snap. I can understand the third, like getting an extra, I can kind of understand it, but if you are in a fight and you're using you're using your third skill, your invoke isn't going to be on cooldown by the time you need to bail yourself out. And again, if you hadn't been spamming your spells so much, you'd have had more mana to probably be able to cold snap someone here. Like, these would have been much easier kills to get. You might even have been able to save someone. Or Deafening Blast the Void, or Deafening Blast the Juggernaut. They made it out, but they really shouldn't have done. SK's dead anyway. Also, your timing on the EMP just here, when that Juggernaut span, kind of wonky. He was spinning. Why did you cast EMP? EMP has a 4-second... well, it has, at this level, what is it? It's, it gets down to 2, so that's going to be about 2.5 seconds delay. Juggernaut spin lasts for 5 seconds, you're not going to do anything to him, so why cast your EMP then? I understand it's a snap reaction, but you have to really know what's going on. Excuse me? So yeah, you sort of choosing when and where to use your abilities is something that you kind of need to work on. Again, going back to base way too much. There was no need for that. You were out of mana, because you were spamming your spells too much, but you didn't really need to go back to base. And you still don't have a bloody TP scroll. Seriously, get TP scrolls. Like, he doesn't have a TP scroll. She doesn't have a TP scroll. Nobody has TP scrolls. But that really doesn't excuse you not having a TP scroll. That's kind of nice. Bane, little bit dead. That's fine, but it's a 3-man gank on a Bane. But yet, sort of nice, you initiated quite early to be able to get the Bane. I like that. I didn't notice whether you were on your Wex orbs when you ran in. Yeah, it doesn't feel like you know why you've got which orbs invoked. I'm not sure whether that's fair or not, but that's just how it feels. Again, timing of that combo was a little bit off. I like the Yules. I really like Yules on Invoker, just mostly because running around with 5-2 move speed all game is fun as hell. Again, why the Deafening Blast? It feels like quite a recurring thing that you're sort of just spamming stuff for no reason. You're casting spells because it's fun to cast spells, which is understandable playing Invoker, but it's not going to help you win a game. So right now you have enough mana for one spell. Both of the spells you currently have invoked are on cooldown, and the completely useless one of them is, at least, unless they're dumb enough to not know how Invoker works and get scared of the big meteor that does about 100 damage. Not worth it. Like,
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
again, that was quite nice, but there was only, what the hell is this Sand King doing? It really feels like this Lich is carrying you guys with...
Kill.
Good lord, nicely done. That was a nice ulti, but again, it was just terrible positioning by them.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
It
attack.
doesn't feel like there's any communication going on. I
Dire's
really
top
don't...
tower is under attack.
It's because I'm only seeing all chat. Never mind. But I don't know how much communication there was going on because I don't get to see
Dire's middle tower
your
is under attack.
chat.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
I kind of like the invoked Forge Spirit, but he really doesn't do very much at the moment.
Dire's middle
It,
tower is
it's
under
nice to
attack.
get a little bit of extra damage. I like it when people do extra things when they
Dire's
can.
top tower is under attack.
Stop where you are. Killed in the line.
But like I think the Forge Spirit was possibly a mistake. Alacrity when you're going on a tower, perfect sense, especially when you have lots in Wex and you got an anti-mage or something like that, because it does a significant amount of damage.
Whatever that was.
The attack speed is nothing to be sniffed at, but the Forge Spirits is 29 damage, so against the tower, that's all of... well, they got 5 armor, I think? 10... Oh, 18... Jesus. 18 armor. My bad. So they got like 18 armor, that's another 10 damage. It's not worth not having access to another spell for it. You're getting a really late wand. Don't think that's worth it. Especially since they don't particularly have any spell spammers. You're probably feeling that you need the wand for the burst of mana, but that's because you're casting too many damn spells. Again, why do you have those orbs? It's just because you invoked Deafening Blast last. Make sure that whenever you're running around, you have your Wex orbs up. That's much better. There we go. But you should almost make it an instinctive reaction. So Deafening Blast is QWER WWW, so that you're back to moving around at 522 move speed. Because maneuverability is one of the Invoker's greatest assets. The fact that he gets such ridiculous move speed and can just run around the map with impunity is wonderful. So use it. Don't just sort of leave the last orbs that you were there idling for a little while. Again, that's 5 seconds. 10 seconds. 15. And you still don't have Wex up. Why don't you have Wex up? It makes you do more damage than Quas. Certainly you don't need Quas up. It's just because you invoke Cold Snap. That's something that you need to work on. Why are you spamming stuff just to do neutrals? You can quite happily just hit neutrals and then regen the damage you take with Quas. You've got 130 damage, you're level 15. You don't need to summon a Fire Spirit that barely increases your damage output to tank the neutrals for you. There's no reason to do that, and it just costs you mana and puts your invoke on cooldown. And if someone suddenly appeared and ganked you, you wouldn't have Ghost Walk. You wouldn't be able to Ghost Walk for 5-6 seconds, which would probably get you killed. Not good. Again, you guys haven't had wards all game. If no one else is doing it, it sucks. Man up, buy the damn wards. Basically. You haven't seen them for a really long time. You probably should be every now and again sunstriking Roshan to check where they are. I like the again, Tornado, that's good. You check the Roshan. It's much more dangerous than sunstriking Roshan to check him. Especially given that that puts your Tornado on cooldown. It's a cost-benefit thing. I know it doesn't matter right now, and it probably won't matter most of the time, but when it does matter, it'll burn you really, really hard. It's nice, you know, nice harassment of the Tidehunter there. He's kind of dead. there's just this constant spamming of stuff for no reason. Oh wait, he's anti-mage, he's not dead. But yeah, you constantly sort of casting stuff, and I guess maybe you're trying to familiarise yourself with all of the abilities, make sure that you know what's going on, make sure you have everything down off pat, and that's fair enough. If that's where you're doing it, sure, whatever. But it's not really useful for a game. It's not helping you win, it's actively detrimental to you. Not much, but it's actively detrimental to you. What else? Quas level doesn't need to be that high. Really? You should be getting points into Exhort. I can get behind... Nice and dead. I can get behind getting up to 4 in Quas, and then going for the double forged spirits, but really a few more points in Exhort will do more for you in the long run, especially with an anti-mage. You've got an anti-mage that's there, so you can get many more points. He can get so much more damage in if you go for Exhort on top of your Alacrity. So Alacrity on the anti-mage does quite a lot of damage. I haven't seen you use Ice Wall yet, which you probably should do, because it's one of the game's most aggravating skills behind EMP and Cold Snap. But Ice Wall's really good. Use it more. I don't use Ice Wall enough. But do as I say, not as I do. Ice Wall is a really, really good skill. It can, you know, especially because they got 2 melees. It works really nicely. They kind of have to get in range of you. You drop your Ice Wall, and then you guys can all back off. That sucked really bad, like really, really, really bad.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower has fallen.
So yeah, extra points in Exhort. Make sure you got your Wex up when you're running around, not just because it's the last thing you invoked. Don't spam spells just for the hell of it. Be more aware of what's going on as to why and where you need, why and where you need to be. Make sure that you're getting your levels up. If there's nothing productive for you to do, I mean, you guys are just kind of running around. You're not really doing very much. Like, and that's not even going to do any damage to those. You're just sort of spamming stuff again. But UNCM is sitting around mid doing nothing for a good 30-40 seconds.
Invisibility.
And then your allies are sitting top, dying horribly. That's the first Ice Wall I've seen you use. And you see how devastatingly annoying it is. They just kind of can't do very much. Cold Snap would have been more useful than Ghost Walk there. I think it would have been off cooldown. So would Alacritying the anti-mage have been, actually. So yeah, you sort of, it doesn't feel like there's any real direction to some of your decisions that you're making. Really should be knowing what you're doing. It feels like you're sort of doing stuff for no real reason sometimes.
Top tower has been denied.
I like a lot of this, but you can see that, like, your disables are wreaking havoc in the team fights when you're there, not when you're fannying around mid doing nothing. And you're getting your Aghanims up a little bit late, but not too much. But you're throwing stuff out for no real reason. That Deafening Blast means that Deafening Blast is on cooldown for like 40 seconds, or is it 35? 40 seconds, yeah. It's on cooldown for 40 seconds, so that's 40 seconds where you can't stop the Void hitting your allies. It's 40 seconds where you can't interrupt a Bane ulti. with one of your 5 skills that interrupt the Bane ultis. Like there, a Deafening Blast would not only have saved the Sand King, it could well have got even more kills than you're getting. That tornado was really shitty again. That's like the second time you've buggered up a Lich's ulti with tornado of one form or another. Don't do that, it really annoys people. So yeah, you sort of, it feels like I do that as well. The other day I got one of my friends killed as Juggernaut because I tornadoed everything that he was ultiing, and instead of them dying, he just stopped, landed, and then they focus fired him and killed him. Which he wasn't best pleased about. But, you know, it feels like you guys just won a decisive team fight there. You got a lot of damage off. But with the Deafening Blast up, you probably would have had another hero or two around, and you probably could have pushed, and you probably could have taken the barracks. I know I sound like a broken record. So yeah, these are all little things that you can improve on. Overall, you play nice, and you've got everything. You got the abilities down, but it doesn't feel like you know why you're using them when you're using them. And I doubt that there's much more that's going to come from this, other than stop going back to the damn base when you have a goddamn chicken. That's the 4th time you've done that, and you wasted 30 seconds going there, 30 seconds coming back. Even if you were there and your allies wanted to take this, which apparently they do, like, you could have been there and easily won that team fight. The only, like, that would have been 5-0 instant death. As it was, the Sand King died. There's no real need. This is very, very, very loud. There was no real need for the Sand King to die there. He only died because you weren't there. And it could have gone much worse if the CM had been trapped outside the Faceless's ulti, if the Lich had been, the CM or the Lich had been trapped in the Faceless ulti, or your allies weren't quite so ludicrously farmed, but they're ludicrously farmed, so it kind of helps. You know, you're playing nicely, but there's little nuances that you're missing, and I'm going to speed this up because I don't think that there's much else that I'm going to get from this. So I'm going to put it back to your perspective, and you're going and farming. Why the hell are you guys going and farming? You should be pushing. That's just general gameplay mistake. Sorry, 1 second. I didn't realise that was going on. What the hell? Alright, you just completely team wiped. So you kill 4 of them. Like, this is this is a really terrible decision. Oh, it's not terrible. Actually, no, this is fine because you can kill it really quickly. But you really should be alacriting the anti-mage, not yourself.
Roshan has fallen to the radiant.
But
Power is mine.
Faceless just burnt his ulti and did nothing. Tide just burnt his ulti and did nothing. 3 of them are dead for 30 seconds. This is the one time where you really should be spamming your spells and clearing the waves, clearing everything out, and pushing and taking barracks. But instead, you're going to farm bottom lane. That was a game-winning moment right there. You killed them all at Roshan. They burnt all of their ultimates. Faceless Void's ulti has a 110-second cooldown. Tidehunter's has a 150-second cooldown. You have 2 minutes in which to just go win. 2 minutes that you could have just won in. But instead, you guys kind of poodle about a bit, don't really do anything, and then go and farm. That's not good. Really should be, you know, you just team fight, team wiped. Got a Roshan Aegis on the anti-mage. They burn everything. You really should just be pushing and winning right now. Or really, you should have taken at least those barracks, and probably could have won it straight up, right there. So yeah, that's another thing. Quite glad I kept going. But there's just no way they're coming back from this. Like, their Void has nothing, their Razor has little, their Jugger has kind of nothing. Especially when you compare it to your anti-mage, who has an enormous amount. And Tide just burnt his ulti again. Alright. That was nice. That's what you really should be doing all the time, but because you're spamming stuff, you kind of don't have the cooldowns for it. I was waiting for that, but it was 5-6 seconds a bit late. Kinda doesn't matter. What's with the alacrity? Again, there's sort of casting lots of spells, and at a lowish level, casting lots of spells with an Invoker will win you the game, because all of his spells are good, but it doesn't feel that your spells are doing very much sometimes. You can use yourself to completely burn his ultimate. By the way, you didn't need to because he's got nothing. But just another thing that you can do. And again, you guys really could have won this 10-15 minutes ago, and then you're just not. Possibly because no one's taking charge and going, guys, look, let's just go win. But you really did have a massive advantage. You're standing downhill and attacking. That just makes you miss. 25% miss chance. Shooting uphill. Not worth doing. The CM, look, the CM is going to miss in a bit. Yeah, there's a miss. So, it took 3 or 4 catastrophic errors completely missed Tidehunter ultimates, all sorts of things, for you guys to... That's really loud. I'll just wait for this to... Yeah. Alright. I'm just going to go down here for a second. It took 3 or 4 massive errors for you guys to go, oh, we can win. When really, you had already won 25 minutes ago, 20 minutes ago, and you just kind of... You just didn't bother to do so. Like, especially this Roshan kill, you really should have just won there. But instead you sort of durdled around for 15 minutes.
Dire's middle tower is under attack. Dire's middle tower
like,
has fallen.
the other guys were not particularly great, and fair enough, you can get away with it, but if you don't win when you should, quite a lot of the time, it'll come and bite you in the ass.
Dire's middle tower has fallen.
Especially when they got a
Dire's
Void,
middle barracks
a
are
Tide
under
Hunter, and a Juggernaut. If these guys had farmed just a little bit better and hadn't died quite so much,
Dire's middle barracks are under attack.
you could quite easily have just lost the game because you didn't push when you should have done, which is a massive problem that quite a lot of people have. They just don't push when they should. Nice. And this void just has nothing. Like the only reason you guys are in such a dominant position is because the void has nothing. Like you guys, don't get me wrong, you guys played so much better than they did, but you made a lot of kind of wonky decisions. And the simple fact that the void has absolutely nothing whatsoever means that he's not a threat, so you can get away with it. So where's the Sunstrike on Tide? I was looking for that. Like, you still don't have double spirits, which is just, like, maxing out Quas is just not worth it over points in Exhort. And it helps that this Tide is horrible and not doing anything useful. But you guys are just, like, there, if they had any more farm, that could really hurt you. That just sort of fanning around doing nothing, that could really have hurt you if they had more than 3k's worth of items on the void. 4k. 4.5, whatever. But, like, you kind of died for no reason there, rather than finishing the barracks, finishing the throne. I get that you kind of... Again, I understand that running around killing stuff is good fun. It's fair enough. But just win, rather than dicking around. You really should have won at about 25 minutes. You really should have won, I think. I think 25 minutes was where you... took the Roshan, was it? 25... Roshan is up.
Triple kill.
Or is it later than that? No, I'm completely misremembering. 35... Yeah, it was about 35 minutes. Okay. So you definitely should have won here. Instead, it's 47 minutes in and you kind of just gave them a chance. And then everything dies horribly. Alright, so couple of things. You need to be more aggressive early game when you're against someone that can get to a stronger level. So Bane, very, very early on, will just crumple to you. But... Ooh, is that my... Oh, that's dead. Never mind. Alright, so... Couple of things, very early on. Couple of things, yeah. You need to work on your early laning. You need to use your chicken a lot more. There's no real need to go back quite a lot of the time. Don't spam spells when you kind of don't get anything from it. Understand why and what you're doing. Win when you can win, rather than durdling around doing nothing. Don't stand downhill. And I think that was about it. I'm not sure. I've been talking for about 45 minutes solid, so my brain kind of is not working. Anyway, I hope that was helpful. If it wasn't, just tell me to go away. But that's how I saw it. Anyway, if that was useful, say thanks. And if anyone else wants me to do this for them, I'm happy to go ahead and do that, as long as I've got a quiet afternoon. Cool. Cheers.